A malfunctioning solar consciousness will exhibit the traits of the sun in Libra. But this doesn't mean that if you have the sun in Libra in your chart, it doesn't automatically mean that your sun is malfunctioning. There are plenty of happy, successful people with the sun in Libra, and your sun could be in any sign. But if your solar consciousness is malfunctioning and unhealthy, during your life, you're going to be experiencing some of the traits of the sun in Libra, because the sun is debilitated in Libra, which means that it's the least compatible of the 12 signs to what the sun's agenda is in our consciousness. Libra is the zodiac sign of making compromises. And from knowing the sun from the video on essentials of the solar consciousness, we know that making compromises is one attitude that does not support whatsoever what the sun is doing in our consciousness. The sun is pushing us towards becoming slowly over time this pure expression of our divine soul in this lifetime. So while it's necessary to make compromises along the path in life, the one thing that we should never compromise is our soul, and never compromise the inspired vision we have to be ourself. So Libra is the sign of trade, the give and take, and it's a very important aspect of living on Earth. Since the sun is the expression of our soul, what could be worse than to be trading your soul for something? A person with a malfunctioning sun is in this habit of ignoring what they're most inspired to do for themselves, and are instead looking to take the easy way out, the easy route in life. And slowly, and sometimes all at one time, they'll give away parts of themselves, usually for the sense of security, like financial security, and they're not feeling this inner solar security within themselves, and very often they're looking for the approval of other people. And so think about all of the people with quote-unquote soul-sucking jobs. All of those people don't have the sun in Libra, but they're making the wrong sacrifice that their solar consciousness is calling the person to make. The feeling of a healthy sun is when we're sacrificing for self-empowerment, for a higher goal. But the malfunctioning sun, the sacrifice they're making, the feeling that it gives is this slow withering away because they're sacrificing for the wrong things. So to understand whether you're sacrificing for the right or wrong thing, what does it make you feel like? Are you slowly withering away, or are you gradually becoming a more powerful and self-empowered person? This will show you if what you're sacrificing for is healthy for you and is a true expression of your soul wanting to express itself. So the symbol for Libra is a balance, a scale, and it's the sign that gives the ability to not go to extremes and find a middle ground that is fair and equal. So these are very good qualities, and we all have a Libra, the abilities of Libra within us, but this is not what the sun is calling us to do. Rather, our solar consciousness is calling us to go to an extreme, a certain kind of extreme, to be extremely you. So this doesn't mean taking other parts of your life to an extreme. It means that there's no need to find a balance in being you. So Libra gives this ability to find the pros and cons, but finding the pros and cons isn't what the sun is doing. For example, to say, I'll be me sometimes, but not at other times. What are the pros and cons of being a pure expression of my soul? You just don't ask yourselves those questions. We have to compromise other things in life at different points. It's complicated, but the sun is not meant to be compromised. We're not supposed to be finding the pros and cons of our soul. It just is, and we have to get to that just is. We have to get to that purity, find it and express it, and not compromise it or find a balance to that. Of course, we need to be diplomatic at times. We need to be accommodating to other people and not be shouting our opinion from the tops of rooftops at inappropriate moments. But when the sun is healthy, the person won't have this feeling of being fearful about what other people think of them, and they won't be trying to win other people over. And these are traits of Libra. To be thinking about other people. What do other people want? What do other people need? It's putting other people in the spotlight, so to say, and to be making judgments about whether you should be investing in another person, etc. But when you're just being you, the right people are going to be magnetically attracted to you. And the idea of balancing your vision is just ridiculous. And you'll realize that, no, I just have to be myself. And taking that frame of mind is being in a healthy solar consciousness mind. You're not putting other people in the spotlight and trying to figure them out. That's a different element of living. That's a different part of our consciousness. That's much more Venusian consciousness. The sun part of us has to always put to the forefront that we have to put ourselves and our vision as a high priority in our life, the highest priority, to be the expression of our soul, and to not subjugate that expression for the desires and the needs and wants of other people. So Libra is an air sign, which is the symbol for social communication. And like I was saying, the sun is not the part of us that focuses on other people. People with the sun in Libra in their natal chart, well, they're making their kingdom in the context of other people. That's what their soul is going to be doing in this lifetime. And this can make these people easily susceptible to the opinions and thoughts of others, which is the danger zone for the sun. The sun should not be getting into focusing on your vision being reflected in other people. It's a singular process. And this is partially why the sun is debilitated in Libra. So if your sun is malfunctioning, what other people think is right for you can become this very tempting trap to fall into, and it leaves you at the end of the day with the sense of being incomplete. There's a kind of healthy selfishness that the sun has. As I said, selfishness is a trait of a malfunctioning sun, but there's a healthy kind of selfishness, which is knowing that there are things in your life that need to come first. As I was saying, the high priority of living your pure vision. But the unhealthy sun, it's sacrificing for other people to the detriment of themselves, so they don't have that kind of healthy selfishness. And a sign of this is feeling drained by other people and getting taken advantage of. You're essentially building up their kingdom, but you're neglecting your own kingdom. So a healthy sun is creating from within their vision for the world, and eventually that takes an external form. It takes a material it becomes manifested materially. What we refer to as the kingdom that we create based on our internal vision. But the unhealthy, malfunctioning sun creates a vision based on what is already happening externally. Their vision isn't coming from within themselves, but comes from trying to fit their vision in the world around them, or they're trying to fit their vision into what's already happening around them. So air is also a symbol of change. So that means adjusting to the world around us. And we learn that the soul is something that never changes. And our solar consciousness's journey in life is gradually getting closer and closer to that part of ourselves that's always there, that was always there since we were born. And really since the beginning of all existence, since the beginning of time when all the souls were created. So our journey in life is getting closer and closer to that. So a malfunctioning sun is, imagine those people who are saying they're quote unquote meant to be doing all of these different things throughout their life. These people, they jump from one conclusion that they're meant to do something, that whatever they're up to right now, was meant to be. And then you see them 6 months later and then they're doing something completely different, or they're in a searching phase for what they're meant to do. And what's happening is that it's a malfunctioning solar consciousness, meaning that there's too much change, there's too much air. They're getting swayed too easily by the shifting winds of the world. And internally, they're too swayed by their own shifting thoughts. And they can be very fate-minded, that it was always destined to be this way. And of course, they're getting swayed and shifted by other people. But as we know, the sun is firm, square, and they have this very solid and confident presence. So the sun knows what it wants intellectually, but more importantly, there's this intuitive inspiration, and it can be difficult to describe exactly what that inspiration is to other people. But slowly but surely, it's building on that inspiration with consistency. But On the other hand, the malfunctioning sun has this momentary inspiration, and then it tries to build on that momentary impulse, this momentary, oh, I'm so inspired to do this right now. And what it leads to is them building a house with a foundation of sand. Eventually that foundation falls apart, and then they're back to searching the world for inspiration instead of searching within themselves. So the sun's inspiration is this quiet inner voice that we're driven to do, but it's felt like a burning passion at times as well. But it's not this momentary impulse. So an unhealthy sun, you have to watch for changing impulses and thinking that is the inner voice that is telling you what to do. The inner voice has this long-term, slow burn, and that gets bigger kind of inspiration, not this quick, oh yeah, I had the light bulb go off, that's my next path in life. You have to be careful of that. So it's important to point out that most people aren't born with this burning passion to be or do something that they stick with for their whole life, and they have that since they're at a very young age. That's rather rare. So if you're a person that's struggling to find what your true vision is, to really get in contact with that solar consciousness, take a look at what kind of work and careers you've done throughout your life, or look at different kinds of activities that you've done, and they could be totally different activities, different jobs. See what part of those jobs, the part that you enjoyed, and see what the common denominator in those different jobs was, what part of it that you enjoyed. And find that common denominator, and you'll see that that was the part of the job that you liked, and you're going to start seeing that that's the part of you that stuck with that job for however long of a time, or that's why you went into that job. And slowly you can start to find that pattern of what your soul is pushing you towards doing, or pushing you towards finding, where you're feeling like this is what I'm meant to be doing, because it's not easy to find that quote unquote meant to do. And when you find your true passion and true inspiration, and then start living it. So another trick is to say, if you had all the money in the world, and after you spent a bunch of money on vacations and enjoying yourself, and you wake up and you say, I have to do something, what would you do if you didn't have to worry about money at all? This is another way to think and lead you down to what your inspiration, your deep-seated inspiration, your soul wants to be doing and expressing in this life. So one word that summarizes Libra is relationships, and business transactions with other people, and of course, relationships with significant others. A malfunctioning sun will lose themselves in a relationship where their existence is so enmeshed with another person, they cannot imagine life without them. And it turns into this over-dependence on another person, but in general, it can become an over-dependence on other people. And the individual's inner light gets dimmed, and the relationship itself becomes this guiding light. And you can think about it like the other person is their sun, and they look at the sun of another person as something to be guiding them. And this, I can probably say, is the least healthy way a sun can be expressing itself, is to totally diminish your inner inspiration and look for other people as this guiding light. Sure, we can be inspired by other people, but it comes back, the sun always has to come back to what are you most passionate about doing? What is your soul guiding you to do in your life? It's a very individual pursuit. But when you're looking at other people to become your sun, that's when life starts to go very awry. And it's getting lost in relationships, essentially. So the solar consciousness is a challenge because it's difficult forging and pioneering your own path in the world. And the world is a very unforgiving and tough place. And a healthy sun, on the other hand, it's not undeterred by that. The malfunctioning sun wants the safety of the relationship to cope with this difficulty. And these people, what they need to do is ask themselves, who am I outside of the context of this relationship? If I was single all of a sudden, who would I be? Who am I really if all of a sudden I'm not in this relationship? So since the sun is our divine masculinity, as I was beginning to talk about in the Essentials of Solar Consciousness video, it's a critically important planet for men. So naturally, most men, they want to be in a relationship and they want to have a companion. So on one hand, the men have to really focus on building up their solar consciousness, which as I've said, is not relationship centered at all. But at the same time, they want a relationship. So there's this kind of contradiction happening. And in this day and age, it's become a lost art to just go walk up and start talking to somebody and see if the other person would like to get you to know you better. And so what happens is that men are kind of stuck. They feel stuck in dating apps and whatnot, and they don't know how to find another person, basically. The best thing that a man can do if they're looking for a partner is to fully embody their sun and follow their inner guiding light uncompromisingly with strength, consistency, and originality, and be building their kingdom. And they need to be focusing on doing those things. Now, when in that process, they're probably going to find themselves alone for some time, and they could be jumping from relationship to relationship, trying to figure out if that relationship is right. Maybe they've had a few failed relationships. But as long as they're following their solar consciousness and seeking to express their soul in this pure way, the potential partners who are going to be wrong for them, they're going to be naturally falling away. Sometimes they'll even be repulsed by you being your pure self. You have to let these people fall away. The right person is going to be naturally like a magnet going towards you once you're living that solar consciousness. And so the right person will come into your life and want to be a part of your kingdom and a part of what you're doing. So what first has to happen is the men following their solar consciousness and allowing the right person to be attracted to you living like that. And as I said, naturally, the people who aren't into you being like that are just going to fall away. So dating apps have made both men and women very disillusioned with relationships in this myriad of different ways. But men can't expect to find, or to keep a woman if they haven't found themselves already, or are at least beginning to embody their divine masculinity and seeking to live up to a higher level of doing what you're most inspired to do. Once they're living like that, the right person will come along because they're inspired by you living in that sense of self-empowerment. So the malfunctioning sun for a man is always trying to appease the partner. And in the beginning, they'll try to show that, oh, I'm the right guy, and have this convincing kind of attitude. They want to show off their good traits and say, oh, I have these pros, but I have a couple cons, but I can work on them. What do you think? They're compromising themselves. They're willing to change themselves. They're too easily swayed by what the partner wants from them. And all this does is leads to a toxic relationship because they're not coming from a firm place of truly living and expressing who they really are. So essentially it comes back to they will change themselves so that the other person will like them. Well, they end up liking someone who isn't you. So they don't actually like you. They like the version that you've created yourself to appease them. It just leads to such a mess. So the men has to come from their inner inspiration, live expressing their true soul's expression, and allow a person to come into their life and be attracted to that expression. So it's always about focusing on becoming the embodiment of your soul, focusing on the divine masculinity and your solar consciousness, working on your solar consciousness. So the sun for both men and women is the foundation of our larger personality. And you can't expect to have any beautiful, productive, or mutually respectful relationship if you haven't at least laid the groundwork in this lifelong project of becoming a pure expression of your soul in this lifetime. So the malfunctioning sun, too easily swayed by the outside world, too affected by the opinions of other people, they are compromising this true expression of their soul. It all comes back to finding that inner voice within you that is showing this it can start off as a slow burn, but it grows into this big fire of what your soul is most drawn and driven to do in this current lifetime.